What's up, folks? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of History Before Us. I'm in Rowan County, North Carolina at the Neely School, and today I'm going to be catching up with some of the descendants of the school so we can get the rundown of its origins as well as preservation efforts. Make sure to subscribe and share. Peace. Here we go, 1908, the Neely School, Rowan County, historical landmark. And I have four beautiful women that are right here, right? Some descendants of the community, and I would love for you all to introduce yourselves, and then we'll get a tour of the school and the property.
Woo, that one down
Your
there?
name.
Yes, ma'am.
Just give him your name, Ma.
He didn't say that.
He did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't hear.
What's your name?
Mary Neely Grissom.
Mary Neely Grissom.
Maurice Grissom Freeman.
There you go.
Tracy Neely Funderburk.
Angela Neely Mangum.
So, as you all see, everybody's in Neely. Now, I'm from Tennessee, and we have a place in Memphis called Neely's Barbecue. Any connection?
We got to find
Not that we know of, but we hope so.
Well, they got some really good barbecue.
We go that way, we're going to find them.
Yeah, if you go that way, you're going to have to find Neely's because they have some good barbecue. So this is a schoolhouse. So do you all mind if we go in?
Sure.
All right, let's go in and get some of the history of this school. And this would be identified as a one-room schoolhouse, correct?
Correct.
All right, good stuff.
And
it
this
wasn't a
is-
Rosenwald school.
It is not, I was about to say, it's not a Rosenwald
All right.
school. It was privately funded. There's no public donation or corporate contribution.
All right, so we'll get into the meat and potatoes of all of that. So this is very interesting because, like I mentioned earlier, in a community that my ancestors are from, we had a place called the Promised Land School, and it was founded by formerly enslaved USCT soldiers who were enslaved formerly at the iron furnaces. And so when I see the stove over there and just all this wood and the desk, you know, it just sparks nostalgia. Even the oil lamp over there, the same thing, right? So can you all detail some of the history about the school and the community within itself here in Rowan County? And was it one of a kind?
It was.
Okay.
So the Neely School was founded in approximately 1908 by a couple, Julius and Katie Neely. Julius, as we understand it, was the son of a formerly enslaved family, Caroline and Jonas. And they were enslaved on the Gillespie plantation, which was not far from here. Jonas was on the Gillespie plantation. Caroline was on the Neely plantation. Jonas apparently did not appreciate his master's name, so when they married, he took the Neely name. So technically, our family is Gillespie's, primarily, although we took the Neely name.
Now, do you know if those Gillespies were out of South Carolina? Like where Dizzy Gillespie's
I'm not
folks are
sure.
from? Okay.
We're
Because I
not
know they
sure.
were out of like Sherall, South Carolina,
We're
right?
not sure.
Came this way,
Okay.
but we don't know if they connect to our family or not.
Okay.
The Gillespies I know, they say their people came from South Carolina.
Yep, most definitely. Okay.
Yes. So in the early 1900s, he decided that he wanted his family to be educated. We're unsure how he got his formal education, but we do know that he was an AME Zion minister over at Miller's Chapel, AME Zion. We know that he got his ministerial training at Hood's Theological Seminary, which is now part of Livingstone College. But we don't know exactly how he learned to read himself, but we do know that he was articulate and that he could read and write. In addition to being a minister, he was also a general contractor, which is how he had the knowledge to be able to construct a school. And he owned a small 5 and dime store, and he operated it out of the back of his home.
Wow.
So, and he was a farmer. So
Now, where would the home be?
his home is
From
right in front of our community center building.
Okay, so this
right
so
there
this
where
space
we're
right here.
parked.
Y'all see those cars?
Yep, that's
so that's
where-
where the home would be. That would be
Yes.
the home site. So
And
he
it-
didn't go too far.
No,
So he
no.
had the school and everything kind of right.
He owned over 100 acres of land in this area, which is why it's called Neely Town, because
Yeah.
it was owned by one couple. And because of fear of the school being burned down, if anyone were to find out about it, especially given the fact that the Klan was very active in North Carolina and in Rowan County, fortunately or unfortunately, is where the Klan was born in North Carolina, and it's about 3 miles from here. So if they had found out about the school, they for sure, best case scenario, they would have burned it down, but they likely would have lynched him. So he intentionally hid it in the, wasn't really in the woods, because as I asked my mom, I was like, when you see how far it is, the original site is, I said, you all walked all the way down here. When she started coming to the school, she was 5. I said, you walked all the way down here? But she said that at that time, the trees weren't as mature.
Okay.
So you could really see it from her grandparents' house. But now the trees are so mature that you can't even see that there's a site down there.
Yeah. And so, based on what everyone was telling me earlier, Mom, you were part of the last graduating class here?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Mhm.
And can you give us some of your memories about being here in this school?
Well, yeah. I was here for 20,
3 or 4 years.
and I know what's here now. I know what's everywhere.
So what did you like to do when you were at school?
When I was at school,
When your aunt, Miss May, was teaching you?
we used to play and eat, and
What did you like to study? Did you like to do math?
I liked everything that she had, including math and the sciences, and I would behave, and I could even go to the yard or wherever. I couldn't do it in the house. We could play whatever I wanted to do there.
And you learned other things besides like reading and writing. You did things like quilt making, right?
Yep, I did anything Grandmama was doing. If she was doing it, then I was, because she's just like me. You see, I had all the money.
Well, you were her.
And she wanted me to build it up and to help with the children.
She might have been a favorite student because the last teacher was Miss May, is what they called her, but her name was Mary Neely, and she was my mother's aunt, and she's who she's named after.
Okay.
So Miss May, as you read in the book, is the last teacher. It's Julius's, I think, his youngest daughter, and she was the final teacher, and she was the one who went up and asked her brother, my grandfather, if my mom, who was the oldest of the siblings, could come to the school because they were threatening to close the school because they didn't have the greatest enrollment.
Okay.
So, and they were getting ready to start offering separate but equal schools for black kids.
Yeah.
So she was like, I need more kids. Mary's smart. She's only 5, but I'm going to bring her here and start her in school anyway.
Okay. So everyone here is a Neely. So how does everyone connect?
My father was
Father.
his grandson, so he was my great grandfather.
Okay. So he was your great grandfather.
And he was my great.
No, just one grade.
Just one great.
Okay. He was my
Okay.
great grandfather.
How does it feel to know that with so many different sites relevant to black folk that have gone by the wayside, that have been destroyed intentionally or just due to poor maintenance, how does it feel for each one of you to know that this has been and will be a mainstay based on the hard work that you all have done to preserve it?
I think the harder work was what they did. That was the hard work, it was the brave work, just to be able to have the foresight to say, my family will not survive. They will not thrive without an education, so I'm going to put my life on the line, literally do something illegal to ensure that my family and my entire community have an education. We calculated it, and if not for this building and that foresight, there's over 1,200 students who would have never been educated, including my mom. So would have never had a chance to go to high school because by the time schools were made available to her, she would have already been like 8 or 9 years old. So she couldn't start in kindergarten and she couldn't start in the 4th grade. So she probably would not have gone. So there's an entire ecostructure here of people who, have risen to become, parts of the black middle class who would not have had that opportunity at all. And students walked as far as 6 miles to get here because it was the only school for blacks in the whole area.
So when they got here, what would a typical day be like here? When I've visited various different schools across the country, whether they're Rosenwald School, independent schools, or what have you, all of them kind of had their different rudimentary things that they would do. Do you know what that would be like for these students?
We
Mom,
know,
can
we
you
know
remember?
some things about it. We know that they did devotions.
Okay.
We know that they sang some hymns. We know that someone was always tasked. There's a creek that's further in the woods past where the school was. And we know that someone would have been tasked to go down, some boys typically would have been tasked to go down and draw water from the creek so they had drinking water. And that they put the basin for the drinking water out there in the vestibule. and everyone would have drinking water for the day. We know that in the colder months, some of the young children would have been tasked with going outside to get sticks for the wood burning stove. And then, as we understand it, at least the last teacher, Miss May, would have set forth a curriculum for the older students.
Okay.
That was, in today's terms, would have been independent study. So they could have, read and done things on their own while she was working with the smaller children. And then when she started working individually, because she was teaching 8 grade levels at the same time, which is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is.
Like, teaching 2 levels at the same time
Yeah.
is a lot. Tutoring one child, one level, can be difficult.
Absolutely.
Depending on the child. But she would have as many as 40 children in this room.
In this room. Wow.
At 9 different levels, kindergarten through the 8th grade, teaching all of them at the same time. And from what I understand, there were some strict disciplinarians, those teachers, they had to be.
Yeah, you didn't have a choice at that point.
Very strict disciplinarians. And then she would have the older children to tutor the younger children as well.
Okay, cool. So it was that community, right? It was the village, and everyone was teaching each other
Right.
even earlier. So back here we have we have a picture of Julius and Katie, and
some of
some
the
other
officers.
things and some officers. Yeah. And Mom, it looks like this is you.
Yes, that
right
was
there,
at
ringing the
the
bell.
grand reopening of the school, the ribbon cutting in August of 2015.
Okay.
She was ringing the school bell, letting the students know that school was in session again.
School was in session again.
Because they didn't know that all of that was out there.
Yeah, so they didn't know even what was back there. Yeah.
Even most of my generation didn't know that it was back there
there.
because it was so deeply buried in the woods.
Okay.
When we found it again, and this is the before and after, so this is what it looks like before we moved it when we first found it in 2010. And it was so far in the woods, and the path to get to it had grown up so much. It wasn't as wide as it is today, and it wasn't, there were no like pavers or anything on it. So
And just for clarity, this was further back, and y'all brought it up, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So moving over here, when it moved.
And this is okay.
Yeah.
So this was the
we have an actual video of when we moved it as well.
okay.
But the picture on the right shows
Oh yeah, there's the truck moving it.
when we moved it to the roadside location, because true preservationists said that if we moved it, it would lose its historic value and we would never get any type of historic designations. And we just decided that it was more important that people know about it and that it be saved, because when you go there, you'll see that it was so deeply buried in the woods. And actually, when we found it, there was a tree laying on the roof.
Oh wow.
So if you think back to all the many storms that have happened just in my lifetime in this area, you've got Hugo and Fran and Bertha. The fact that it was even still standing was
This is true.
miraculous because the trees are so tall around it. We
Yeah.
said, if we leave it there, it's just sitting at the mercy of the next storm. Something's going to take it out at some point because it was just made of wood with a tin roof. So we found it to be much more advantageous to bring it to the roadside location. And luckily, we still had the location where his house was.
Most
So
definitely.
this land is still a part of the site where his house was located. So it made sense to put it back on his land, but put it at the street where people would be able to see it and
I
where
was
we
just
could
about to say,
publicize it.
aesthetically, it looks really good coming around the curve, and like, oh, look at that nice historic building, right? So over here, just kind of looking at some of the things that are here. There's a bell that's up here. There's also some of the school teachers that are over here, and there's the sign also has some of the first students and the students from 1924 to 1948.
Right. And we got all of that through oral history because there were no records kept at that time, none that we could find. So we interviewed all of the living alumni that we could find to find out the names of people who attended the school. And as far as we could go back was 1924.
Wow.
And then the first students are actually his children.
Okay.
So those are his 7 children who were the first students at the school. But we were able to get all of the teachers. So we were able to go through and interview people and find out who all the teachers were at the school.
And as far as these surnames, as you see, we have Blackwells, we have Brooker, Bush, Cooks, Finger. That's an interesting last name. I've never heard that surname before. Higgins, Nance, of course, Neely's, Pickett's, Ramsiers, shavers. How many people are still in this community? How many of these families are still tied to this community
Almost
today?
all of the families are tied to the community, and the land in this entire area is still primarily owned by family members.
Okay, that's beautiful.
Most of the names there are either the Neely family, for example, you know, the Blackwell name is Julius's daughter, Lorena Cassie Bell Neely Blackwell. So many of the names are members of the family or they're members of the community because our neighbors and, you know, everyone around, it was not just a family school, it was
Sure.
for the entire
The
community.
community.
So those names are still the names of the family members or of the families that are here in this community.
And
Okay.
the Cook name is the name of my grandmother's family.
Okay.
They were relatives. The Higgins were like church members. And some of those names are church members at Miller's Chapel.
Is that church still standing?
Yes,
Yeah, it's
the
still
church is
standing.
standing, and that is where Julius and Katie are buried.
Okay.
That's where he was the minister, and they are buried there. It's about 3 miles from here.
Now, how about their parents? Are they buried in the same cemetery,
I'm
or
not
do y'all know
sure.
where they're?
I'm not sure if I'm not sure that we know where they're buried.
Okay.
I'm not aware that they're buried at Miller's Chapel.
Okay. So what's original in here?
You can
Is
tell
this original?
the darker wood is, and then the lighter wood is what they sewed in during the restoration.
Okay.
So they tried to match the type of wood, and the general contractor was a restoration contractor, so he did a wonderful job of trying his best to match what would have been here originally. Most of the floor system was gone because
Sure.
there was no foundation, so it was sitting on the earth, so it all rotted away.
Right.
But the walls and much of the ceiling was still there. So when we initiated our project, we looked specifically for a restoration contractor because we didn't want it to look brand new.
Most
We
definitely.
wanted it to be very similar, and you'll notice that they did go the extra mile. They didn't just put any wood up. They made sure to give it the beadboard so it would have the same textured effect as the older wood, so that over time it will age and it'll never catch up in age, but at least it'll have the same look and feel.
Most definitely. And so these were original markings in from students.
Yes.
From one of these students, y'all.
Yes.
Or all of these students at
And
some
this
point.
is the original blackboard.
Oh,
So,
wait a minute. So the blackboard was wood?
well, it was wood, but it has some, I will caution you that you don't want to touch it.
Okay, I won't.
Not because we don't want you to touch it, but because it's some type of burn technique where they burn some type of ember to make it into the chalkboard finish.
Okay.
And it's almost the consistency of charcoal.
Okay.
So when you touch it, your hand turns immediately black.
Yeah, yeah.
Ask me how I know. So I'm like, you don't want to touch it because
Yeah.
it definitely will come off on your fingers. But that is the original chalkboard.
Okay. And then there's, looks like there's some newspaper articles, of course, about the school. Wow. So this is how high the trees and everything were when the school was found again, rather. Okay. The choice for President Obama, and that's Roosevelt, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So why these two?
He was the president when it closed.
Okay.
And he was the president when we reopened it.
Reopened it. Okay, that's nice. Nice. All right, so we have a brick that's here, and we have a school bell and a desk. Give me the rundown.
These are just some items that we sourced. This brick is actually an award. It was a preservation award that we won
nice.
for our restoration effort.
Okay.
And then because when we found the building, it was largely empty, we just sourced a lot of things from the period that would have been representative of what they would have used. So a similar desk that the teacher would have had, a bell, because Mom definitely remembered that she had a bell, and that's how she got the attention of 40 students who were likely unruly at the time. But going back to our general contractor, Alfred, he made sure to get like materials, so these 6/6 windows would have been in keeping with what they would have had, because the windows were gone when we found it.
Okay.
The door was there, but the windows weren't there.
Okay. And can the bell be rang?
Sure.
Mom, you want to ring the bell?
No.
No? I'll ring it.
I'll ring it. No,
Hopefully that doesn't bust anyone's eardrum. But no, this is nice. This is nice.
We also sourced a lot of old books, so we keep them in a bin back there. But if
Okay.
you'd be interested in seeing them, we have books.
They were during the time period. Okay, yeah. Let's check
So
out
we
a couple
have
of them.
books going.
Let's see what the kids would have read during that time.
We have a dictionary that is from 1913.
Okay. And before we kind of started, we were discussing the desks, and you said that these right here,
The wooden
the
desks.
wooden desk, right? This would have been time period.
The
Right.
type they had, because the alums remember that they had a double desk.
Okay.
And they remembered them to be all wood, which would have made sense because they wouldn't have had enough money to purchase
Sure.
the metal.
And that's the important piece also about oral histories, is that you're able to do the work that you need to do to make sure that things look as close as possible to the time period. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
Yep. So what books we got?
So this one's a math book,
Okay.
progressive
I see
arithmetics.
Okay.
This was from 1906 and 1910.
Yep. Okay.
So that would have been of the time,
And an English book.
an English book.
Now, being the fact that this was an independent school, how would teachers go about obtaining these books? Do you know?
We think that they were donated from the other schools by the superintendent, because we do know that the local superintendent gave them the first teacher,
Okay.
because they had to have a certified teacher to start the school.
Okay. And that local superintendent would have been a white male, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then he, after the children of Julius attended the school, Julius and Katie, all of the daughters went to Livingstone College and got teaching degrees, and then they came back and they taught at the school.
Okay. And for those who may not know, because I know y'all have heard us say Livingstone a couple of times, Livingstone College is an HBCU, right? And
in Salisbury.
And what brought me to North Carolina from Atlanta is that I was a director of counseling at Johnson C. Smith University, which is in the CIAA conference, which is the same conference that Livingstone is in. And so can you tell us the community's connection to Livingstone College, and how many kids from this school may have actually attended Livingstone College as well?
We're aware of a lot of students who attended Livingstone College.
One
Even,
thing I did in my research is at the time that Grandpa went to it was Zion, what you call Zion Wesley Institute.
Okay.
You know, that's what Livingstone.
That's what it was called prior to Livingstone?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's where he got his theological degree, but that's probably where he got his contractor's degree too.
True, yeah.
Because they taught black men how to be contractors
Yeah.
and do stuff like that. If you look at the history of what they taught at that time, they taught them how to be business efficient.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's where he got his contractor degree as well.
Beautiful. Okay.
here's another book. This is a dictionary,
Webster's been around for a while.
and it is from 1913.
That's the year my great grandmother was born, 1913.
We got some at my house.
Wow.
I got all I could, and I kept my
You know, it's just crazy to go to think about how many generations prior to this generation that was able to attend the school, or they were able to attend the school, that it was illegal for them to read. You know, I mean, and then you get here to this schoolhouse, and hopefully people were just kind of burgeoning with the need and the want to, of course, learn. So that's just when you see, you know, dictionaries and then those books that are housed over there, it's just a stark reminder of how just one or two generations back that wasn't even permittable legally.
One
Yeah.
generation back.
Yeah, and mom for mom.
A
one
living
back.
generation.
Yeah, most definitely. So we have the stove over here, which was originally right here, right? Who knows how to work the stove? Mom, do you still know how to work the stove? No? Let's look at the brand. Okay, Ironside 121. the Whirlpool Company in Newark, Ohio. I've heard of Newark, New Jersey, but not Ohio. All right.
And the ashes go in the bottom. That's
And
what I
so,
remember.
no, there were no additions ever added onto this building,
No,
correct?
no additions.
What we have is what
When we
have.
restored it, we did put it on a foundation.
Okay.
And you'll see on the outside that we actually sourced some of the rocks from the site and used those as a part of the foundation just to kind of make it look in keeping and to give it a little bit more historic charm to it. But
Most definitely. So before we go outside, I did want to ask, as it relates to the county and their engagement with the school and the community in general, how supportive has that been, and what has been the overall views of people in the community and their understanding and learning about the Neely School?
everyone clamors to know more about it. There's so many people who didn't know it existed, including the county. When we started the project and just wondered, okay, well, if we're going to go about restoring it, we probably should, get permission from whomever owns it. But no family members knew that they owned it. It wasn't deeded to anyone. It wasn't recorded with the clerk of court. So much so that when we went to the clerk of court to say, well, who owns that building, because we want to purchase it from them or get it from them so we can restore it, clerk of court said, what building? Because they only take aerial pictures.
Sure.
And with the deep foliage where it was,
They
you
didn't
couldn't
even
see
know.
it. So they didn't even know that there was a structure on the building. So we worked with a real estate attorney who let us know that, if there's not a specific deed, whoever owns the land owns the building. And that was just one of our cousins. So
Well,
we
that's a
just
blessing within itself, right?
negotiated with him to get it and move
Here
it
we
up
are.
to this location. What was more difficult was getting this land as a part of the Historic Neely School Foundation.
Okay.
Because this land was owned by Julius and Katie, and in their wills, they did deed it to
All the heirs.
all the heirs.
Okay.
So we had to go through the quit claim deed process with my mother and over 50 of her first cousins to first alert them, because they did not know that they owned their grandfather's home site, but they did. And then to say, you didn't know you owned it, but you own it, can we have it?
Yeah.
Because you own about a bathtub worth of land.
Yeah.
'Cause his home site area is only like a little over an acre. So
Okay.
divided amongst 50 people, you don't own much.
You don't know much. And again, that home site would have been there. We'll
Yes,
step outside.
right
here
there
in a
where we're
second.
parked.
All right, cool. So can we step out?
We can.
Yep.
We can. But before we do, would
Yeah.
you like to ring the school bell?
Oh, I thought that was the bell over there that you
No,
were talking
this is
about.
the
Oh,
school
you're talking
bell.
about this one.
There's a big bell. You just have to ring it gently.
Okay.
Because it'll flip.
Oh, y'all hear it?
We just talking about how to keep
That's the school bell.
Birds.
And this is the original?
It was replaced.
It was replaced. All right.
But it is old.
Yes, most definitely. All right, cool. Well, let's head on out.
Okay. About a year or two after we restored the school, we determined that it was going to be a shame to let it grow up again the way it was when we initially found it, when it was only about the width that a person could walk through to navigate the path to get down to where the original school was located. And we said, we don't want to lose that. So instead of letting it grow up, a part of what the Historic Neely School Foundation raises funds for is to be able to maintain the entire site, including what we now call the nature trail.
Okay.
So we kept the widened path that we used to drive the school out on the back of a flatbed truck, and that's now a nature trail for the entire community to enjoy. What's interesting is that in order to tell the story of the school when we're not here, so when a community member is just walking the nature trail, we had an Eagle Scout to post signage, including this
right
one.
here.
And as their Eagle Scout project, and there's different signs as we go down the trail that talk about the history of the school and the history of the United States at that time, just to give people more information about it so that they are understanding what they're approaching. Then, as you'll see when we get down there, we actually have enshrined the original footprint with bricks.
Okay.
So you can, especially for the true historian who said it would lose its historic value if we moved it, we said, well, we'll preserve it. Our compromise was we'll preserve that original site so that one can see where it originally was and the exact size and scale
Sure.
of it for where it originally was. And we sell those bricks as a fundraiser.
Nice.
So when someone goes on our website and orders a brick, then we will have engraved on it whatever they want to have engraved on it, and then we place it at the site. So you'll see that there's engraved bricks all over the footprint of the school, and we'll continue doing that until there are no more spaces.
All right. Well, I got to get one today then. So I can go onto the website today and
can.
do it? And I can put it under history before us?
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
You can do whatever you want. There's two different sizes.
Okay.
The regular size brick is $100 and it holds 3 lines of text.
Okay.
The double bricks are $125 and they hold 4 lines of text.
Okay, good,
So
good.
whatever
I'll
size
make
you
sure
would like
that
to get.
today. So
That would be great.
what you all are seeing right now is where the school was actually moved to, and where we're about to walk to is where the school originally was. And it's a nice little hike. I've come out here a couple of times, and so
It's about 1/4 mile.
yeah. But all of this, the school itself, to your point, the reason in which why a lot of people didn't even know the school was back here is because this was legit like a forest, right? It was
Yes.
the stuff was, the trees and everything was that tall.
Yes.
And so the clearing out part, who were the masterminds behind everything, and how did the community galvanize around making sure that it went from down here to up there?
I have to give that credit to my mother and her first cousins.
Okay.
That entire generation who, and this is the beginning of the nature trail.
Very unique. Nice. Okay.
So the generation of family members who attended the school really had the passion behind it. My generation largely had maybe heard of it, but we had
Okay.
never seen the school because it was so deeply buried in the woods that we never would have come this far. I grew up in a city, and you could not have paid me to walk this far in the woods for what apparently was no reason.
Now, did y'all have family reunions here?
We had family reunions in the area, not necessarily on the site,
Okay.
but we had family reunions at like local parks
Okay.
and things, but not right here on the site. But we do plan to do that now that we have an infrastructure
Clearing
where
and
we can.
everything? Yeah. Okay.
Where we can do that. So it was really my mom and her first cousins representing different members of, or different branches of the family from Julius's different children,
Okay.
who said, we want to save our school. And then they, with their spouses, largely supported by my father, who recently passed, but he was the CFO of Winston-Salem State University. So he had built numerous buildings and understood nonprofits and was a tax accountant, so understood like what it would take to create a 501c3, get an IRS EIN number and all of those things. So all along the way, we call it divine intervention because
And a legacy that he left.
we've
with
never
helping with this.
encountered any debt throughout this entire
wow.
project. So it's
That's very
always
rare.
been a cash operation where if we don't have cash in hand, we don't do it until we have the cash in hand. But until we got our 501c3, we did, different creative fundraisers that were impactful. So we weren't on the fish circuit
Yeah.
where we were selling fish dinners out of the back of our car. We didn't do that. We did, galas and
Yeah.
had a lot of corporate sponsorship, encountered the right types of benefactors, did some, matching benefactors who said, hey, I will give you, $10,000, but you have to raise $10,000 yourself. So we had some creative fundraising before we were able to start applying for grants. And then throughout the process, we earned over $125,000 in grants.
That's beautiful.
So this is the cover of our book.
Yep, and I
So-
have it. It's a great book.
In 2017, around the time that we got designated as a historic landmark, my mom worked with a children's historic fiction author, and she interviewed many of the alums and kind of created what is not necessarily a nonfiction book, but it's not exactly a fiction book either. It's kind of a historic retelling of the family roots going back to Caroline and how she gained her freedom. and Caroline was Julius's mother, and then kind of going through her life and into Julius and how his young life would have been, and him meeting his wife and running into Reverend Agri, who who was a missionary from Ghana and encouraged him to start a school.
Wow. So many different lines that connect the what's the word that I want to use here? The inception of this school and even the site in general. I mean, when you look, y'all, this is a lot of land. And so, the trail started way back there, and you can't even see the school anymore. So that's, how far up it is. And of course, there's trees and everything that's also blocking it. But this was a nice chunk of land, and I can only imagine the liberation that individuals had to feel being in this space, which would have been considered somewhat a safe space during the time period.
Sure.
The rise of the Klan and everything that was transpiring during that time period, and to think that there was a safe haven that was here, or safe as can be, had to have been, of course, some warming to a certain degree for the community. Yeah.
Absolutely. So this just provides some history of the time frame and kind of what underscored why they wanted to create a school. Because the late 1800s into the early 1900s was the inception of the Jim Crow era.
Yeah.
And as we know, they were not at that point thinking of even creating the separate but not exactly equal schools.
Sure.
So without visionaries like this who were brave enough to want to educate blacks, there would have been an entire another generation who didn't get an education at all.
This is true.
This is a very impactful sign here that talks about the number of the rate of illiteracy in North Carolina.
Yeah. By 1900, 50% of blacks and 20% of whites in North Carolina were illiterate. The 1905 North Carolina law provided that every county require all children ages 8 to 16 to attend school for 16 weeks. In 1910, North Carolina began planning for a statewide system of public education for blacks, but initial plans included schools only for white students. What were black families to do? So it's just kind of crazy that it says require all, right? But you don't provide the resources for the black family. So we did what we do, and that's create our own.
Right. But even those schools were only for 16 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that some of that, so 16 weeks for that. Let me ask you, were any of these students pulled out of school early like they were in some of the other schools due to sharecropping?
They definitely did sharecropping, but as we've been told, they did it in the mornings and the evenings.
Okay.
That,
so it didn't have to interrupt.
Right, that the families were very much proponents of education.
Yeah.
And said, our children will be educated. So they would do their farming before they went to school, and then when they came home, they would have to do more. Okay. So made for some very long days for them, but it was worth it in the end.
Now, the last time I was here, this was like, I couldn't see that far back.
Right.
So
we cleared it.
This is pretty dope.
Because we do want this to be a destination for people to come and learn our history. Yeah. And where we've walked it, a lot of people who want to see it can't walk it. Mm-hmm. So we intentionally left it clear enough that a car can drive it, and then as opposed to them having to try to make a U-turn, they can just go around the circle, and it comes out on the other side over there.
Okay, so it just loops around?
It just loops around.
From right there, it just starts looping around?
It just comes around so that way a car can drive it, or a person can walk it. Okay. So these are the engraved bricks that I was
You're going to have history before it's here soon.
All right. Well, these are different supporters and family members and the like. Yeah. So there's plenty of spaces, y'all. So when you see this, there's plenty of spaces for you to get your own. Do I get to choose where I want mine to go? We don't
just messing.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of input in where they put them.
No, I'm just messing with you.
But they do put them out.
So this was the original size of the school, which of course matches the footprint of that one up there.
And the school is geographically at the exact same direction.
Yeah. Y'all see that?
So we kept it turned in the exact same direction.
Yeah.
once it's up there, but we just felt like it was only God's grace and mercy that saved it for 70 years without it being impacted by one of these tall trees.
Most definitely.
So many storms have come through any one of these trees
Could have taken it out.
easily.
Yeah.
But we found out that it was fortuitous that he knew to construct it out of white oak. So white oak apparently is not attractive to termites. So that's what really kept it from being completely destroyed by termites all those years. And the fact that it had a tin roof. The tin roof also protected
Preserved
it
the
from
woods,
rotting it.
yeah.
So we did replace the roof during the restoration, but it was replaced with a similar roof from a barn that was being raised.
Okay.
So we were, again, very grateful to be able to reuse materials and get things that would have been very comparable to what they would have used during the time.
Okay.
So the other building that's up there, we finished that in 2020, just in time for the pandemic. And that's a small community center building that we constructed to make the site attractive for people to come to, because the school will stay historic with no electricity, no running water.
Right.
So it wasn't much of a destination until we had a place with actual bathrooms,
Yeah, where people
air
can congregate and
conditioning,
everything.
heat. Just
Do you have a
those.
TV in there?
We have the ability to have a TV,
Okay.
but we haven't put one in yet.
All right. I'm going to have to bring one of my films up here. We can do a screening and talk back.
Oh, we would love it.
Yeah.
Or do it out on the big
Lawn?
open patio.
I'm game.
That would
either
be
way.
perfect.
Yeah, I'm game either way.
That
We can
would
make
be
it happen
wonderful.
for sure.
You could even do it down here. We just don't have much electricity down
Yeah.
here. But we could even do it down
We can
here.
make it work. So
Right here
as
on
you
the
all see
footprint.
right here, this is the original location. This is the original footprint, and the original potbelly stove would have been about right here, where you see me at. And when we were in the school, it's over here in the corner. And the desk would have been right there. So if you all remember what the inside looked like, this is the exact footprint of the school. And so there's some more signage. There's another one right over here. How often do you see people coming out here and taking advantage of this trail?
The community appreciates it. There's a couple of families who come out here every week
Okay.
and walk the trail. And I know they look at the different foliage
Yeah.
and things of that nature. We come out here at least quarterly. We have an open house
Okay.
so that we can expose it to those who want to see it, because to hear about it or to see pictures of it is one thing, but you truly feel the history when you go into it, and we consider it a privilege to be able to publicize it, because he was such a visionary, and
Yes.
they were just so brave to try to do this.
Yes.
I just think they were ingenious, literally being the son of a slave, to even have the foresight. Today, I would
Yes.
not know how to start a school. If you said, go start a school tomorrow, okay,
Yeah.
let me Google that.
Yeah.
I don't know how to start a school.
Yeah. And so when did the official Neely town come into play? The naming of the community.
I think it was just always what they referred
What
to
they
it as,
referred to it as,
because
yeah.
it was over 100 acres, and it was primarily the community of Neely's.
Wow.
Like, not everyone, but probably 90% of the families were Neely's, so they just called it Neely Town.
Wow. And you know, it's wild because when we talk about legacy, you know, you just wonder what the ancestors think when they look and see what their descendants are doing now. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that at that point they may have been thinking future generations, right? But we're talking hundreds of years out, and y'all are still doing the work.
We can't not do the work. If they were brave enough to do what they did with their limited resources and the threat of best case scenario jail,
Yeah.
worst case lynching for what they did in the early 1900s, I didn't say 2000s, I said 1900s, right after slavery.
Right.
The descendants, the direct children of slaves, Like, we can't not publicize this.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I sometimes struggle with in various different communities that I go to that have this historical footprint, but I don't think that people understand the value or how invaluable it is to be able to say that my family still has this land, my family still has the opportunity to gain some economic stability because of land, right? It's a prime asset to have,
Yes.
right? But more importantly, of course, to continue building legacy and creating memories based on individuals prior to us that had such a vision. And this right here, where we're at, is a huge vision that, of course, played out, and you all are living beneficiaries of that.
Yes, when we talk to school children, you can just see the light bulb come on when we talk about the fact that there were no schools for them to attend.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean there was no school? Like, it didn't exist. And not only did it not exist, it would have been illegal for them to go to a school. It was not, they didn't want to go, they couldn't go to a school. So just from that perspective, I don't know that we even have those type of visionaries today to think, I'm going to do something that's going to impact my children's children.
Yeah.
Because had that generation not been educated, it is likely that the entire family may not have appreciated or gone the extra mile to get an education. Like, I definitely credit it with my existence because my parents met in college. So if my mom hadn't attended the school until she was in the 4th grade, she likely wouldn't have gone to high school or college.
Right.
Wouldn't have met my dad. There'd be no me.
This is true.
So, and then I wouldn't have, necessarily had the motivation to become educated as well. So.
And so this is beautiful as well. Here at the end, it discusses remembering your visit. So as you leave the historic Neely School trail, remember the struggle for equal education for all children. It was not an easy one in 1954. Of course, the Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas finally said that separate schools were illegal and that school systems should integrate as quickly as possible, and Rowan County fully integrated its schools in 1970. Thank you for visiting and learning about the restored Historic Neely School. But prior to then, this school was already gone, if you will. So where were students when that happened? Where did they go?
In 1948, when it closed, they started providing separate but not exactly equal schools.
Okay.
So there were local elementary schools that they could go to at that time.
Has there been any stories about what people's experiences were like when they left the Neely School?
They just talk about how they didn't want to leave the
Yeah.
school.
It was home. It was bigger than a school.
It was their whole community, their
Yeah.
family, and all of their community, well, much of their community in one place. Coming down to the school, I don't know if you noticed the signs for Courier, Gravel, and Stone.
Yes,
but,
yes.
That's a white family that were great friends of ours growing up for my mom, because that was their playmates.
Yeah.
And the Courier family was very supportive of great-granddad Julius and provided him with resources. Actually, the first school building that he used while he was constructing this one was one of their meat packing plant, one of their meat houses, one of their smoke houses.
Okay.
That they weren't using. They let him use that for the school.
Was that in somewhat close vicinity of where we're
I'm
at
not
now?
positive where it is.
Okay.
Or nor do I know if it's even still standing. But they let him use that before, while he was constructing this school. And they've always been great friends and supporters to this day. Many of them have come down and toured the school, and they remember it existing. But I asked my mom, I said, these were your best friends, and she would talk about how they would play on the weekends and the evenings. I said, you all never talked about the fact that you didn't attend the same school.
Right.
Like, they literally lived like across the street and
Stone's
down the
throw.
street.
Yeah.
And said, you all didn't talk about it? She'd say, no. We'd say, I'll see you tomorrow after school. And we would get back together after school.
Right.
Didn't talk about the fact that, why don't we go to the same school? We're the
Yeah.
same age. Why aren't we in the same school?
Yeah, that's always interesting whenever those conversations come about when I talk with individuals. And I just think sometimes it was just kind of innate to not cross those conversations to kind of keep things where they're at. Like, I don't think some people wanted to have that painful reminder that we can't do such, you know?
Yes.
And again, I don't know. I think for everyone it's different, but,
Right.
you know.
But they've been, great supporters. They still, when we have open houses, they'll
Come
come
out.
by and talk to us and ask us about different family members. I remember this person. Where are they?
That's beautiful. That's also humanity.
For
And the
sure.
beauty of inclusion. So this is the gathering space.
Yes, this is our little community center building. And we built this building in 2020 just to make the site more functional with a small little kitchenette space, a little meeting area, 2 bathrooms with 2 stalls each that are accessible so that, you can come and have a small gathering, a small family reunion, that type of thing, and want to stay here long enough, and you can charge your cell phone while you're here. You can use something other than a porta-john while you're here. Like, it makes you actually want to stay for a minute. So that you can stay. We've poured a slab over there so that we can put out a grill next year and really start having more events here.
Get the smoker and everything going.
That's
Do
the
y'all
plan.
have anyone specific in the family that's expert in that?
Not specifically.
Okay.
I think we might have some friendly competitions going on to see who's going to be the king of the grill.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so we have some shirts here too. If you don't mind just staying still, because I want to get this shirt. As you see, the Historic Neely School Foundation, Inc. There you go, right there. See it? So they're all representing. And then right there on the corner. Now, pull the shirt back again. With the sweater. You see the Panthers. Now, they're terrible, y'all. But she gonna ride or die with them, right?
Ride or die.
Her tags are the Panthers as well, so she gonna ride or die. But if I can get all 3 of you all right here, and let's get some better light, because I just want you all to for everyone to just talk about the legacy of this space, right?
Well,
Like if
I
we
was
can
gonna
get,
say stand
here
here
we
with
go.
the school
there we
behind
go.
us.
Got some good stuff right here. But if you all just, from a family legacy standpoint, just tell us exactly what it means for you all to still have this in your family, and what are the grand ideas that you all want to see moving forward for future generations in the family?
Well, what this legacy means to me, as I told the kids today, education and equality is important in this country. I told them integration occurred when I was a 5th grader. So I remember Jim Crow laws. I remember not being able to go to certain places, certain restaurants, not being eating certain places. And I told them they would go become future politicians, future teachers, future educators, future public servants, and always remember equality. Because right now this country is going through changes that are setting those laws back.
True.
And just remember, education is important. And they asked one question I thought was very interesting, was where would the Hispanic students would have went to school? I said, I guess they went to school with us.
Yeah,
Or
most
they had to
definitely.
been their own school, so they wouldn't have had a school.
Yeah.
Right.
I said, but fortunately, it's not that way now. And I think it's important to educate our kids in equality and fairness in this world right now. And so that's what this legacy means to me.
Most definitely. Thank you. She was over here thinking, y'all. She was like, y'all, what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad that my Aunt Mary had the vision to move the school to where it is today, because I didn't know about it.
Wow.
I did not know about it, and I'm so glad she had that vision. Now, not only can Rowan County, North Carolina, but all over this country can learn about the little school that was once in the woods. And it's just priceless. It's just priceless, rich history, and I'm so glad to be a part of it.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure my sons and hopefully their kids and just continue the legacy.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. I think this is a case study in how much one family, one individual can do. Like that they had the foresight to say, this is not the life, this is not the world that we want our children to grow up in or our community to grow up in. This is the way it has been, but this is not the way it will be in the future.
Amen.
So they did this primarily with just friends and family supporting them. There was no Rosenwald initiative behind them. There was no county funding. There was no state or federal Department of Education funding.
right.
It was just them saying, we're going to make this happen because we want our family to and our community to be better than they will be.
Yes.
So that just what an individual, what a grassroots organization can do
Absolutely.
if they have the fortitude behind them, and for them to do it with their meager means, one generation out of slavery. If they could do that, then what can we do
I know it.
with the advances, with the education, with the technology? What can we do?
What can we do?
So we take what they did and we built upon it.
Absolutely. Where can people find you all? Websites and everything.
Our website is historicneelyschool.org, and on Facebook we are Historic Neely School.
And I will put, let me see. I will put that information in the description and the summary of my visit here. Listen, like I always say, make sure that if this is content that you enjoy and you love, to subscribe and share. But we're going to give Mom a shout out real quick before we leave, to have her wave at the camera. She's chilling inside right now.
Oh, yeah.
Mom, are you up?
She's probably taking a nap.
We're gonna open the door and uh-oh, you dropped something there, some water. But I wanna say I thank you for sharing the information that you imparted for us in the school, and I know that you're proud of your daughter as well as your cousins. And yep. And I just want to say thank you for your time today.
You are quite welcome.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Like I said, I had to let it
Have
All
a
right.
water or soda or something if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, I definitely get some water. So listen, y'all, subscribe and share, and make sure to look forward to the next episode. Peace and blessings.
Thanks, Frederick.
Yep.